Okay, welcome everyone. Today we are doing the work group of reviewing the USMCA. We've been doing a lot of presentations, and today it's going to be the Mexican Solidarity Project presenting what they think they should be addressed on this revision of this USMCA or T-MEC, we call it in Mexico, that is going to be in place in the 2026. We've been talking about too much about that, and today, May, she already prepared something for us, so I'm going to let her to do the presentation of this topic. Go ahead, Maisu.
Okay, did you want to, so people are using AI Companion.
Yes, they are doing it so they can ask for the translation. Then, anyways, if the people that speak Spanish they have a question, they're gonna ask in Spanish, and we're gonna translate exactly what the answer. But anyway, they can just be checking on the AI companion. And if it is going to be put on a YouTube on our YouTube channel, so it's good to know that everybody knows that even the Spanish videos that we are putting there, if you go to the closed caption and you say translate that to the English, there's gonna be the translation over there, the subtitles. Okay, so go ahead.
So welcome everyone, and really like to see some of you that I know very well and who have participated. So please chime in if you have something to add. I think that when the USMCA was passed in 2019 and went into effect in 2020, we were all very excited because of the new labor provisions that for the first time protected the right to organize for Mexican workers. That had not been the case in the NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement that preceded the USMCA. Also, because Morena was elected into the presidency and to many congressional offices, a new labor reform was passed in 2019, and that also reinforced the right of workers to organize into independent unions, which had not really been very possible before that because of the control of the PRI party and the unions that existed were almost all connected to the PRI and were connected to employers, so they did not really represent the workers. So over the course of those years, we were hoping for a big upsurge in union organizing and many more independent unions to be constructed in Mexico. Unfortunately, that has not happened. While there have been some victories, there have also been some defeats, and things are not going as well as we would like. And so I'm going to concentrate today on the rapid response mechanism in the USMCA, which was a really good step forward, because before, if workers had a complaint, it would be at the national level. It would have to be like the government of Mexico and the United States being in dialogue. But this way, workers could target the specific workplace that they had and to file a complaint and to get a response within 30 days. So that was really unheard of and a wonderful innovation. However, from our experience, we found that there were problems with this and that it really needs some repair, as I put on the first slide. So I think Diego provided us with a really good template for these presentations. He wanted us to talk about our direct experience to really ground these discussions in real life situations. So I wanted to start with, well, first of all, people do know about the very first RRM, rapid response complaint that was filed. It was for GM in Silao, Guanajuato, and that one was very successful. The RRM was accepted, the complaint was accepted, and it forced a new election. and the independent union, Cynthia, won by a landslide. So I think that also gave us a lot of hope. However, it didn't quite turn out that way, and the employers and the old corrupt unions have found ways to kind of get around that. And so that's the thing that we're concerned about right now. So the first experience I wanted to highlight was VU manufacturing. And let me just see. Yeah, here we go. VU manufacturing is in Piedra Negras, and it is a manufacturer of upholstery for automobiles. So it is a supplier, not an automotive plant itself. And it had a parent company situated in Detroit, Michigan. So in 2022, workers began to organize at VU. And Sergio Villalobos, who is on our call here, was one of the organizers, so he can chime in with any additional facts, but I'm going to be brief. Because they were organizing quite successfully, the company was interfering with their organizing efforts, and so they filed an RRM in June of 2022. And the complaint was accepted, and as a result, a fair election for representation of workers by whatever union the workers would choose was held in August of 2022, and La Liga, the independent union, won. So after that, once you win union representation, as all of us know, the next step, which is even harder sometimes, is to get a contract, a collective bargaining agreement. So the company did not start to bargain in good faith. Instead, they brought in another union to start challenging La Liga. And so for the first time, and I think maybe the only time still, a second RRM was filed by the La Liga and the workers at VU. And again, the U.S. Department of Labor and the U.S. Trade Representative found that the complaint was legitimate, and they outlined a course of remediation, things that the company had to do in order to allow the newly elected union to do its job. But instead of following the remediation plan, the plant simply closed, and it left the workers high and dry. In fact, when it closed, they owed workers another paycheck and severance pay, but they never paid it. So 71 workers were missing their pay. Two of the union organizers had been fired without any remedy for that one. So there was an attempt to file a third RRM. That one was not accepted because the government of the United States said that the plant had closed, so that there was really nothing that could be done. And the case was closed. So the thing was, though, that because VU is part of a multinational company, it seemed like the company overall should have been responsible, but it did not step in to help in any way. So at this point, this is like 3 years after the union was organized, La Liga was organized at VU. Um, the workers are still mostly without their pay. They have been blacklisted. We heard from one of the union organizers. That, he was feeling so down about the whole experience and the blacklisting that he still didn't have a job. And so these workers are still suffering. So here is La Liga when they won representation in August of 2022. Really exciting moment. And then after the plant closed, we organized protests in Detroit in front of the parent company. Here is a slide where the UAW really stepped up in support of the VU workers. But nothing happened. So that experience is one which we were afraid would have a chilling effect on other workers who were trying to form independent unions. So the second case I wanted to highlight was Camino Rojo in Zacatecas. The Camino Rojo mine, again, is part of a larger organization. It is part of the Orla mining company based in Canada. Canadian mining is huge all over the world, really. But in Mexico, it has an especially bad reputation, not just for environmental problems, taking water, for example, from people, so that rather than having adequate water supplies for people, it's used by the mining company. But again, an attempt was made. Well, the Los Mineros represented, which is an independent union, represented workers at Camino Rojo. But then the company brought in another union to challenge Los Mineros. In the new law, workers have to ratify contracts, and at Camino Rojo, the old contract was not ratified. However, so that meant that Los Mineros was still in charge, but they had to file an RRM in June of 2024 because the company was using physical violence. Jaime Pulido, who was the general secretary, had his car blockaded by thugs that were from the company and from the new union that they were trying to bring in. And he was beaten up in front of his family, and his life was threatened so that he had to move away and go into hiding. So that RRM was accepted again by the United States government, but the Mexican government did not agree. So it went into a panel, which means that both governments present their cases to an impartial panel of judges who decide whether there were indeed violations of the right to organize. And that panel has still not concluded its work. So it has been, since the first RRM was filed, it has been over a year, and there's still no end in sight. So we did some fundraising for Jaime Pulido because the company, when a worker is fired, as Jaime, well, wasn't fired, but he had to leave. In that case, he has no resources at all. So in a way, the company can wait out the union organizers because they have plenty of money and resources, but the worker doesn't. So at a certain point, the worker organizers have a tendency to need to cave because they need either to they need to make a living. So again, in this case, there was support from the United States. You see the USW the United Steelworkers, the Canadian Steelworkers also supported Jaime and the Los Mineros and the struggle at Camino Rojo. But that one also is still unresolved. Jaime Pulido is still in hiding. He has been pressured by Camino Rojo, who gets in touch with him to say, take a severance pay, get this over with. And in the meantime, support for the Los Mineros within Camino Rojo has diminished because people are scared. They have been under threat, not just of being fired, but of actual physical violence. There is evidence that the new union that is being brought in has connections to cartels. And so it's a really dangerous situation, and there is no protection for the worker organizers. So that's the second case that I wanted to mention. And I think this pattern is something that we're starting to see in other organizing efforts as well, where the company will bring in a new or old union that is really their employer union that will cooperate with them rather than truly representing the workers. And for the independent unions that have been organized by workers, they get intimidated into submitting. and giving up hope. So when you have workers who have that experience of having to give up hope or losing their drives, it is not good for the independent union movement overall, or for the building of worker power within Mexico. The last one I wanted to mention is agricultural workers. And here we met the leader of the Agricultural Workers Union, Sindha, and we learned about the workers that are berry pickers for the big, huge berry company Driscoll. Almost anytime you go to the grocery store and you try to buy strawberries, it will say it's from Driscoll, almost 99% of the time. So in Rancho Agricola, which is one of these large agribusinesses located in San Quintin in Baja California, there has been wage theft. There have been health and safety violations or problems, like workers working for many, many hours in the heat without any extra rest or water and so on. There has been verbal and sexual abuse. And because these farms are located a little bit out of the city, workers are given housing, but it's really poor. It's more like a concentration camp than housing. For example, in one place there were 100 workers and only 2 bathrooms. So again, there has been support for agricultural workers on both sides of the border. You see the United Farm Workers, who organize farm workers in the United States, but in Mexico and in the United States, the struggles are completely linked because they're working for the same companies, they're working under similar conditions, and so there's a lot of room for joint cooperation. So as a result of all of this, what is it that we would propose in remedy? Well, as I say here, Representative the U.S. Trade Representative under President Biden said that the benefits of trade should be shared with the workers. And the question for, I think, all of us that she asked as well is, how can these trade policies lift everyone, not just benefit the companies, but benefit the workers too? How can trade policy help workers hold companies, especially U.S. companies, accountable? So here are some ideas that we had. First of all, because many plants in Mexico are part of companies based in other parts of the world, as in the VU situation, the whole company VU should have been held accountable, not just the facility in Mexico, so that when they closed, under the USMCA as it is today, the workers could not hold the entire VU manufacturing company accountable. And so even though we protested, that did not happen. So it needs to be a language change in the USMCA itself. Also, the sanctions should not only be against companies for violating these, they should also be levied against the Charo unions or the Blanco unions and their leaders for interference, particularly with the use of intimidation and violence. And while this isn't under the USMCA, we feel like labor organizers should be included under the human rights category, which are protected somewhat by the Human Rights Commission. And the companies themselves need to be held responsible to protect their workers rather than colluding with the people who are making the threats. In fact, they're encouraging intimidation and physical violence. And something should be done. I think Thea Lee, that's the biggest example where people have been denied work in other maquiladoras in the Piedra Negras area, where they would earn comparable wages to what they had at VU. So many of them are, street vendors and so on in the informal market. And then just to say, in terms of agriculture, labor chapter does not right now include agricultural workers, and the labor chapter should be expanded to include agriculture and agricultural products. And then also that right now it's only workers in Mexico that have access to the RRM, and workers in the United States do not. So in the case of the farm workers, for example, they need to be able to to hold their employers accountable and to get a rapid response within 30 days, as workers in Mexico do. So those were some of the lessons that we learned from our experience supporting independent unions, trying to organize in Mexico, and the obstacles that they faced. So overall, we feel like the RRM was a positive development, but it needs repair. It needs some changes in order to make it truly a useful tool for workers, especially as right now employers and the corrupt union leaders, old and new, figure out new ways to keep control of workers to their own benefit and to the detriment of the workers themselves. Thanks. Don't know if anybody else would like to add or have questions.
Thank you, Meisu. I'm just putting in the chat for if somebody don't speak English and they don't know how to use the AI companion. If you ask to AI companion, what did you say? That's the report on Spanish. Okay, but okay. If anybody wants to say anything else about what Meisu has been, yes, go ahead, Beatrice.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. It was very, very good to find out everything that's going on. But the thing that I have to say is the RRM, even though it exists in Mexico, the results are still detrimental to the workers. So what good is it to have it? Thank you.
The RRM is not always detrimental to workers. I don't think it's detrimental because, as I said in the first case of Cynthia at GMC Lao, if it wasn't for the RRM that was filed, they would not have their independent union today. And it is quite a strong union. Their contract that they negotiated with double-digit raises was really groundbreaking. And we're hoping that that example will be spread. And there have been other victories as a result of the RRM. But we're highlighting here some of the cases that it didn't work out so well and what needs to be fixed in order to make it work better. I'm not sure how to
Okay, anybody else has something to add, a question or something that reinforces what Meisu has been presented?
If I may comment,
Sure.
put very simply and essentially an answer to the question, a lack of teeth and a lack of follow-up has been where I've seen the downfall. So it's just the act is working to the point that it's being enforced. That's my way of putting it. Thank you.
Just to say that was Jennifer from the UAW, who was very instrumental in trying to build support for the auto worker suppliers. And in spite of our best efforts, as she said, we were not successful. Beatrice, I'm just wondering, when you said that you thought that the RRM was mostly detrimental, I wondered if you could explain a little bit about what your experience was.
Well, the way that I understood is that the RRM was said to sort of get something going on within 30 days, but at the end, in some places, it didn't work out like expected. So that's what I mean. We have to ensure or do something about having this RRM to really work for the workers, because after all, they're the ones that are being abused, because many of them are, especially in San Quintin. I've heard about it, and is that what is happening? We people outside don't do enough. So maybe you could guide us on things that we can contribute to make things better.
Well, I think, and this is part of the project with Diego and the diputados, these are cross-border issues. And I think, we need to organize, and we need to, as we compile these ideas for improvement of the USMCA, we need to lobby, we need to talk to our Congress people, we need to organize other workers to help them understand what needs to be done. Why, especially in the United States, why lifting up Mexican workers and helping them to organize to raise their wages and improve their conditions is good for workers in the United States as well. And that's one of the purposes of the Labor Committee that we have formed. And Diego, I wonder too, with the diputados who are, Congress people in Mexico, I'm wondering what they can do to influence the negotiations of the USMCA.
Okay, this is the thing for the deputies. The USMCA is out of the reach. This is something that the senators they're the one that discuss. One of the things we are bringing on the table is that in this matters that they are so important for the whole country, it's crazy that the deputies that they are the representatives of the people, they are not on those tables. So we are trying to start addressing. They don't want to take the decision. They don't want to vote. But what they can do is start, like you say, lobbying. You are asking and making reunions with the people and say, hey, this is the USMCA. You need to know this. This is the limitation that we have, and we need to change that. The deputies, they need to be part of the negotiations of the USMCA. That's pretty much what we are trying to address. So some people might think that's pointless what we are talking about this if we have used the support of the deputies and one senator, but the idea is just to push the senators to look around and at least bring the deputies to talk about all these businesses. All the matters of the USMCA. Pretty much that's the thing that we are trying to do, because most of the people in Mexico, they don't know what's going on. They don't know what means to be in the USMCA. They don't know about this rapid mechanism response. So we are trying to make sure that people know at least a little bit what's going on. Yes, go ahead, Peter.
I just wanted to ask about enforcement. I mean, what kind of teeth could be put into the when they do give a favorable ruling? How can it be enforced, and should that be strengthened?
And this one, I don't know. Macy, you have the experience about how is going to be the response of the RRM that is with Silao. That I think that's what helped the Union Cynthia to win that election.
Mhm. Well, the main thing that really helped Cynthia was it had a very strong organizing committee within the plant. So that's still the key, is organized workers themselves. But I think in terms of enforcement, that should be up to the STPS, the Mexican Labor Department. So the US government can make a recommendation, but they work closely with the STPS. And so enforcement is really on the part of the Mexican government, but the U.S. Department of Labor has had labor attachés. There's 5 of them in Mexico, and they also follow up and they help kind of keep reminding the Labor Department officials of what needs to be done in terms of remediation. It varies, of course, from state to state. In some of the Mexican states, they have a more progressive governor or local officials than in other states. And so where there are still some of the old like panistas who are in charge, they are still anti-labor and are not really following through the way that they should be. And I would say that was somewhat true at VU. I don't know, Sergio, if you wanted to say anything about that, because people have found that workers have found that going to the Labor Department in Mexico has not been all that helpful. And unfortunately, it seems sometimes that the US government, surprisingly, is more firm about upholding the right to organize than the Mexican government at this point. That's one of the weaknesses that we see.
Yeah, and it's one of the things we are trying to bring to the table, that the STPS start talking with us, start being involved about precisely on the unions. We were talking last week about this when we talk about the unions, about the sindicatos charros, that is a big problem. And I find out that López Obrador pushed a new system. I'm gonna share just a little bit of the presentation. This is in Spanish, but this is like a seminar that they made, and this the actualization, the new labor and justice system that we are trying to eradicate the charro unions. It's a hard work because the charro union, they're pretty much the one, they have the power, but at least now since 2019 they've been trying to do this. So I'm gonna try to make the translation of this and send it to you. Because that's the thing we were seeing on the union table. I'll make sure that's the question. I think with pretty much this, the RM is pretty much just for unions, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
it's not just like to protect the common regular workers. It just needs to be in unions. But I think that's the problem that uh, that's gonna help the unions here in Mexico. We are trying to push like the immigrants unions here in Mexico with all the people they are having. They are going to the United States with the work permit. We are trying to concentrate here like in the unions that to protect their business over there. That's the thing that we'll be talking on that table. I'm gonna do the translation of this document. I'm gonna send it out to you
Right.
to see if that match with the proposal that you are putting there, like recognizing that the biggest problem is the charro unions.
So one of the problems is that because of the intimidation and so on, a lot of the CTM unions are still representing the workers, and legitimately so, because even though they did it through bad faith, still they won elections or they were not ousted. And therefore, the Morena government, in working with unions, is also working with the Charro Union. So they're in the room, unfortunately. So it's a problem, and that is where some new formations need to happen, especially within Mexico, in order to push for honest worker-led unions.
And Aaron is just joining us. Aaron, we are using the AI companion. If you want to catch up with what we've been talking, you can just ask what I missed. I already shared the proposal from NASU on the Google Drive. But anyways, you can just check that. We are seeing pretty much what she is focusing is in the rapid response mechanism between Mexico, United States, and Canada. And I think in NASU, one of the biggest problems is that this been I don't know how successful has been this RRM for Mexico, the United States, and Canada. I think that Mexico is the one that is been using it better, but I think it's still far away for what we could achieve, no, on this.
Right. Well, I think it has come up in your tables, Diego, that the RRM mechanism is only for workers in Mexico, and Mexican workers in the United States and Canada need to have access to a similar mechanism. There have been, I think now, maybe 30 RRMs filed since 2020. And we don't know about all of them, and hopefully there will be a report coming out. But as I say, Beatrice, many of them have been successful in getting fair elections. But as we've noted, there have been big problems in some cases. particularly with a plant closing and just leaving completely in order to evade remediation. And there was, I think Sergio can speak to this too, there was concern that they would close and open up in another part of Mexico under a different name, or maybe move right across the border to Texas. And those kinds of things need to be watched and stopped, hopefully, because that would just, the companies are finding ways to evade workers from organizing into actual real organizations that can challenge them.
I don't know, Sergio, if you have something to add. Your mic, yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me well?
Yes,
I will speak in Spanish because it's my native language.
perfect.
Y mi acento es mejor. Me escucho mejor. Sí, con base en lo que dice May, sí me parece que es un reto y que jamás se previó en el mecanismo laboral de respuesta rápido ni en el apartado del T-MEC en materia de laboral. Es el hecho de que las empresas son transnacionales y tienen presencia en diferentes países. Por lo menos en 2 de los 3 países del Tratado de México, Estados Unidos y Canadá. Y eso sí les da ciertas facilidades para poderse mover. Es decir, en el caso de BU Manufacturing, fue un hecho de que la producción que se estaba realizando ahí no frenó, sino que simplemente se movió y algunas operaciones que se realizaban en BU, algunos productos, pues pasaron a empresas de Acuña vinculadas con el mismo grupo de personas que eran parte de BU Manufacturing, y además la empresa, cuando cerró en Piedras Negras, empezó a producir en una bodega que tenían del otro lado de la frontera, en Eagle Pass, Texas, ciertas piezas para acabar su producción. Entonces, son todo este tipo de facilidades que tienen todavía las empresas transnacionales para evadir sus responsabilidades en materia de libertad sindical. Entonces, sí me parece que no nada más tiene que ver con que las autoridades mexicanas hagan respetar la libertad sindical, sino que en verdad entre ambos países, con las leyes laborales y los marcos legales que tienen, sí deben de construir pues un andamiaje institucional en el marco de los 3 países para presionar a las empresas, no a las facilities, a las compañías, no a las fábricas, sino a las compañías, para respetar la libertad sindical. Y el caso de Manufacturing sí da para reflexionar sobre la necesidad de que no nada más es aplicar el mecanismo laboral de respuesta rápida en México, sino también que los Estados Unidos se hagan responsables de que sus compañías, ¿no?, como empresas, se responsabilicen de las acciones que están haciendo sus fábricas en México y sus oficinas de recursos humanos, y es algo que no pasó en Manufacturing. Entonces me parece que el reto en la siguiente revisión del T-MEC es: hay que observar la libertad sindical en un ambiente donde las empresas pues tienen un libre comercio, tienen presencia en diferentes países y tienen una capacidad de mover sus empresas y la producción con relativa facilidad. Y con base en eso hay que empezar a diseñar herramientas que ayuden a los trabajadores y trabajadoras a que se respete la libertad sindical, no en México o en Estados Unidos o en Canadá, sino en toda la región, y construir pues la siguiente revisión con base en una lógica pues de que la cadena comercial hace que las empresas se puedan mover con mucha facilidad. Y eso es un reto para lograr implementar la libertad sindical.
Gracias. Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, I think, Sergio, just like there's the beginnings of that, like in a couple of the slides where we had US workers, US, Canada unions, and Mexican unions working all together, Los Mineros, and United States Steel, Canada Steel Workers. those are the kinds of things that we really need, because obviously these companies reach across all of the countries, and we need workers and their supporters to be united as well. So that's a challenge and a task for us. And I just wanted to say Sergio is one of the co-leaders of the Mexico Labor Solidarity Committee, which is a binational group.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, and this is pretty much, I think that what the RRM is not more than like to help to the unions in Mexico, like try to keep the control about what they are doing, and let us these transnationals, as you say, to do whatever they want and don't take any responsibility directly in the United States. On the unions table, we were talking about how United States, Canada, they have the unions that they cross the border with no problem, but this is not happening in Mexico, which is something that left alone a lot of people here in Mexico. I already sent a message to Luis Espinosa to prepare something to find out the difference between both unions, and to talk about these recent events on the Cynthia election in San Luis Potosí, and he's going to be with us next week. Okay.
Oh, great.
Perfect. I don't know if anybody has another question or to want to add something. And this is the thing: a lot of people here in Mexico, not just the regular people, even or deputies, the senators, most of them, or I mean the new ones at least, the bancada migrantes, for example, they have no idea what is the USMCA, what are the implications, what is the difference between unions in Mexico and United States. So this is like trying to show them pretty much what the people that they've been working for so many years trying to protect the rights of the unions or the workers they've been doing. So this way they're going to have better knowledge about what's going on about this the USMCA. So you want to add something? Nothing is. Everything's gonna help. This is recorded. It's gonna be on the YouTube channel, and it's gonna help to prefer to make strong the proposal that everybody we are working on.
I wonder, Aaron, I don't know what coliform is.
I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, coliform is a collective of organization and federation of Mexican migrants, and we work with a binational agenda. My colleague Beatriz Ricard is part of coliform as well. We don't have a specific population because we try to reunite the leaders from the different organization and federation, from people from Zacatecas, Guerrero, Jalisco, etc., etc., etc. Part of the work that we are doing is try to help in the binational agenda. For instance, we were part of the technical team who made the change of the law in Mexico to accept the no apostille in the birth certificates issued abroad for the Mexican descendants. We were working in the Congress and we passed that reform. I don't know if you are aware that before, in order to get your Mexican citizenship, you need to present your foreign birth certificate with the apostille. However, because this change of the law, there is an exception for the kids when they are forced to return with the parents to Mexico. So there is no longer that situation. In US, we are working to try to get as well the immigration reform, probably executive orders, because it's incredible that the kids cannot apply for the parents because the waiver. The kids cannot file the waiver to leave the uninspected entry. And third, we would like to see if there is a chance to regularize or legalize the Mexican and Canadian citizen in US, Mexico, the US American and Canadian, and in Canada, US citizen and Mexicans through the T-MEC, when they start the negotiation apparently on January. There are a lot of work to do, but thank you for your comments, and whatever you need, please consider me to support and to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
Peter, go ahead.
Peter?
Just a comment, which is that I think the stronger the independent unions become in Mexico, the easier it will be to kind of get US-based unions to recognize that their interests are not served by trade barriers or tariffs or things like that Trump is trying to impose. I think that's just something that folks need to keep in mind at all times. It's a struggle, I think, and Jennifer knows more about this than I do, I'm sure. But to get a union like the US UAW, which has generally been sympathetic to Mexican workers, is still like backsliding on the question of tariffs because they don't see enough potential at this point, I guess. Or that's probably how they would rationalize it, that they worry that Mexican unions will not be strong enough to fight for their interests, and until they are, tariffs are the way to protect their American workers, U.S. workers' jobs. So it really is important, I think, in terms of both sides of the border, that U.S.-based unions have confidence and strengthen, the independent unions in Mexico.
Thank you. Beatriz?
I haven't heard a lot about how we're going to be bringing the environmental protection, because I know that there's a lot of mines, especially Canadian, that they're really having a lot of things happening to the environment in Mexico, especially the rivers. And we also have to understand one thing, that agriculture in Mexico is not subsidized like it is in the United States. So right there, we begin with something that is not equal. So it's something to just keep in mind.
Yeah, thank you.
Meisu, in your proposal, one of the things you are here putting is that the blacklisting of workers for exercising the right to organize should be prohibited. There is any proof that, how we can prove that this is happening, that the people or the workers that they are asking for their the protection of the rights, they are going to put in this blacklisting? Because on the table or work group of these unions, we have pretty much the same the proposal about, but it's about to put in a blacklist of the businesses that they are exactly doing this kind of things. We are trying to push that the STPs get involved on the contracts of the workers that they are going with a work permit from Mexico to the United States. And if any of the companies, they are doing exactly this, like they used to put in their blacklisting to the workers that are asking for their rights, make sure they don't want to have any more workers. So trying to push them to respect the law, the rights of the workers. So it's a way we can this a list of all these businesses that they are doing this, because we know that happened. But how we can prove that people is being discriminated because they are fighting for their rights?
I wonder, Sergio, if you can respond to that, because at VU, they did document cases where people were turned away for no other reason possible. Sergio, do you want to? Are you still there?
I'm there, but I can listen good.
About
Okay.
the blacklist.
The blacklist.
Because we know that is happening, but it's going to help if we start having proofs. If we can give to the deputies, to the senators, say, this is what is going on. This is the proof that we did not, something needs to be done. That's going to help a lot.
Okay, well, I'm responding in Spanish.
Sí,
I don't know why. I understand good in English, and I
Sí,
can.
sí, adelante.
Pero siento que en mi español me escucho mejor, mejor acento. Sí, bueno, ese es un reto también que tiene la legislación mexicana a nivel laboral, que nosotros detectamos. Una es que no tienen, que tanto el Centro de Conciliación de Registro Laboral y la Secretaría del Trabajo no tienen mucha capacidad de investigación, ¿no? O sea, es decir, básicamente toda la capacidad que tienen de investigación es con base, y también en el Departamento del Trabajo de los Estados Unidos, es con base en los testimonios que dan los trabajadores, ¿no? Y uno de los grandes retos que tenemos, por ejemplo, es que pues todas estas acciones de las listas negras no es que haya una lista negra pegada afuera de la fábrica diciendo estos trabajadores no se aceptan, ¿no? O sea, ¿cómo lo hemos rastreado? Pues a través de que van 70 o 80 trabajadores diferentes a pedir una solicitud a una de las fábricas y no los aceptan, ¿no? Y que la fábrica dice, estamos contratando, vemos que van los compañeros de Manufacturing y no los aceptan. Y eso pasa en las diferentes empresas que tienen contratos colectivos de trabajo con la CTM. Y eso, bueno, lo pudimos rastrear a través, digamos, de conversaciones con los trabajadores, con sus testimonios y llevando un registro de a qué empresas iban y qué les decían. Hay oficinas de recursos humanos que sí dijeron, usted no va a entrar porque es de Manufacturing, ¿no? Y se lo digo en confianza, no me insista. Pero es algo que es muy difícil tener en una grabación, en una evidencia, o vamos, que sea una política abierta, porque hay que decir que, o sea, la legislación mexicana a nivel laboral es muy noble con los trabajadores. O sea, en realidad tenemos una muy buena ley federal del trabajo. El reto que tenemos es que se pueda cumplir. O sea, porque en realidad no hay capacidad para aplicarlas y tampoco hay capacidad como de investigación a las empresas por parte de las autoridades laborales, ¿no? No es que pueda entrar la autoridad laboral a revisar los correos de recursos humanos, por ejemplo, que fue uno de los retos con la queja con Fujikura, que ya no avanzó. ¿Por qué? Porque pues la fábrica dice es que yo no hago nada y hasta ahí quedó. Entonces, sí, las listas negras es un hecho con base en los testimonios de los trabajadores y los patrones que vamos viendo y que ninguno de los trabajadores de BU Manufacturing, 2 años después, están trabajando dentro de las maquiladoras, porque ya no
So,
los aceptó el sector manufacturero porque tienen contratos colectivos con la CTM. Esa es como la mayor evidencia, pero evidencia directa, bueno, eso es complejo y sí también es un tema como a revisar en
I
las
think
mejores que podría haber. Perdón.
Yes, Sergio, because you collected testimonies, those might be good to present to the diputadas. So this is an example of blacklisting. Another thing is that if you could follow the workers and see what kind of jobs they had overall. For example, we had that 71 that were still without jobs. But another thing is that we could, and I don't know if it would be within the USMCA, but certainly ask the Mexican Department of Labor to help workers that get laid off for union organizing or whatever to find another job so that there would be actual assistance in placement so that, because for example, at VU, we knew that Fujikura, which was a similar plant, was hiring. And when people went to try to get a job, they were turned down. And I think, wasn't there an RRM filed against Fujikura as well, Sergio?
Eh, sí, lo que ocurrió con Fujikura es que cuando entra la queja, ellos contratan como a 5 o 6 trabajadores de BU Manufacturing para decir, sí estamos contratando trabajadores de BU y entonces la queja se cae. Que vamos, también la empresa tiene capacidad como de responder, ¿no? Y dice, no, es que no los contratamos por temas de salud, por temas médicos, de edad o lo que son discriminatorios también, pero no por temas sindicales. Entonces, o sea, entonces como que esa fue su respuesta y con base en esos 2, 3 trabajadores que había, dijeron que en Fujikura se respetaba la libertad sindical. El tema de las listas negras sí es un tema muy complejo porque justo ese es el mayor miedo de los trabajadores en México, luchar por sus derechos y que luego no vuelvan a tener un trabajo formal. Y pues en BU Manufacturing eso es una realidad y es el reto que hay. Pero también es muy difícil como demostrarlo, ¿no? Esto de las listas negras.
So,
Perfect. Yes, I think that everything helps. I mean, if you have the testimony of the people, that's gonna be very helpful. Another thing is like when people they've been, and this is the case that I know, the people they've been having no problems with these companies for many years, and suddenly when they as they are fighting for something next year they are not, so that's a proof. I don't know what the thing I don't know very well the law in the United States, but in the United States you go and put in through an application and they are hiring and you are not get hired, you can do something. I think we should pay attention on what's going on in the United States and try to implement this here in, to bring this to the table to the legislation. I think it is something that the deputies they can do, that they can change that. But as I say, we are trying to get in touch and start working with the STPS. But all this information, that's the one that's going to get give us support about what we are asking for. Because if we show up and say we know this,
Yeah.
they're gonna say no. And these tricks about what you are saying, okay, they hire a few people and then they just deny the other ones. The same, say, this is a pattern. They are doing this all the time, so we can throw all that. Yes, go ahead, Aaron.
Thank you. And I don't know, but part of the problem is that there is no authority to review the behavior of the companies. I was thinking if there is possible that the unions create a kind of ombudsman in order to inspect or review the companies when the worker file any kind of complaint or something like that, but to have some organism, somebody to help them through the process. I don't know if you are considering that or how is the situation right now. Thank
I think right now people go to their local labor department authority, but as we have seen in many cases, those people have not been particularly helpful. I think in the case of VU, Sergio, the labor representative has been trying to help, or some of the local mayor has been trying to help get the payment, at least get the payment that is owed these workers that were let go. But yeah, but there's no specific ombudsman, I don't think.
Sí, las autoridades locales intentaron apoyar las autoridades municipales, pero sí fue como muy limitada la capacidad de apoyar. Ellos, que también es otro tema, tuvieron la maquinaria, embargaron una maquinaria propiedad del- de la fábrica para poder, digamos, pagar las liquidaciones, pero pues fue imposible venderlas por el estatus legal de la maquinaria y demás. Y bueno, el gobierno intentó apoyar, no logró mucho, también intentó buscar trabajos. La verdad es que las empresas que abrían la puerta a los obreros eran de servicios, no maquiladoras. Y bueno, la realidad es que el precio y los beneficios y las utilidades y demás son un poco diferentes en el sector de servicios y en el de la manufactura. Muchas personas prefieren la manufactura, que a pesar de ser más pesada, pueden tener un poquito más de ingresos, pero aún así es, es un reto, pues, o sea, como que falta mucha capacidad operativa por parte de las autoridades, tanto de investigación como de apoyo a los trabajadores que luchan por la libertad sindical. Vemos que sí todavía falta como rebustecer las instituciones, pero bueno, vemos que lamentablemente están sufriendo reducciones presupuestarias. Entonces sí que creo yo que necesitamos ir viendo los retos que hay en cuanto a libertad sindical y cómo se pueden ir subsanando, porque creo que estos años sí nos dejan ver que no nada más es lo que dice la ley, sino cómo se aplica.
Perfect. Well, and pretty much, I think this topic that is asking Aaron is in the proposal. It's a work that advisory committee should be set up. I think that's something that we were talking about that and the union corporation that on those work groups. if the government is not doing it, I think we can do it. I think we have the media, we have the bulletin from MEISU, we have Hablemos de Migración. Right now, we are getting in touch with Tepe Migrante. So I think we can start doing something mediatic so we can bring this debate where it needs to be, bring it with the deputies. Right now that Sergio is talking about the money, the President Claudio Sheinbaum is going to send in a few days the proposal of how we're going to expend the money for the 2026. And I think we need to start seeing where we need to address all the money that is going to be expended next year. And I think this is one of the biggest issues, because I don't know what's going to happen with the T-MEC, with the USMCA, but it's going to be a big topic next year. Meisu, I don't know if you want to add something or anybody else.
No, just that when you mentioned the budget, last year the labor budget was cut. And it was very disappointing because there's so much that needs to be done there. So I hope there are people fighting for an increase, as I don't know if it was Peter or who said, but a lack of capacity to follow up on these complaints.
Yes, and that's one of the things that we want to add, because it's not just for the labor, was for immigration as well. So the big topics that they are hurting to the immigrant, to the Mexican, to these so-called héroes de la patria. So I think we need to start talking with them. So I'm gonna pass the report of this to all the deputies. And we're gonna keep talking about this matter. As I say, the Wednesday, Carlos is gonna be talking about BRICS as an alternative to the USMCA. And next week, Luis Espinosa is going to be talking about unions, Mexico, United States, what's happening in the elections over there. And I hope we can work out something with all of you. You want to present a topic. We are more than welcome, Sergio. I think you have a lot of experience, and I hope you can join us on these work groups. Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Meisu, for the presentation. We're going to be in touch, and let's keep working together. Peter Zafairo, thank you so much. Sergio, nice to meet you. Beatriz, thank you for being here. Les, Yadira, Jennifer, Mario, and Usuario, which I don't know who is, but Aaron, thank you so much, and see you next time.
You, Diego.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Buenas tardes, bendiciones. Hasta pronto, compañeros.